Hi everyone, I am Shan.
And I am Tam. This is the Real Talk Podcast.
On this podcast, we have some candid conversations between us about love, family, faith, relationships, parenting, work-life balance, and everything in between.
We hope that as you listen to these conversations where we share our stories, or thoughts, or fears, or hopes, or trials, and where we celebrate our successes, even the small ones, you will recognize that we are pretty much all the same.
We want to inspire you to overcome your own trials and recognize that we are never really alone, even when we think we are. We will tackle these topics from the perspective of how they impact our daily lives.
We invite you to not only listen, but interact with us and our guests as we have some real
talk. So greetings, Shan and Tam fam. Happy Black History Month again. Tam and I are excited. We have a dear friend and brother, Jeff Martin. He is an author, a life coach. He is a motivational speaker. He works in law enforcement and he is a husband, a father. Jeff is doing big things in the community and we are actually privileged to have him here with us today to speak on the very important topic of mental health in the Black community. So welcome. So Jeff and
thank
Tam.
you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm excited too. This is awesome to be on your podcast and to be, just having the opportunity to have your listeners kind of tune in to the great conversation we're about to have. I'm very grateful. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely, my friend. So, Jeff, last night we had this very amazing program with the youth from our church, and you're just speaking life into them. You're worth it. You can do it,
Yeah.
Just positivity. And, Tam and I have been talking about, even now during this COVID times, people just feel so down and broken. Mm-hmm. And I know in our community with our people, sometimes we're not open to talk about the struggles mentally. From a male's perspective, Jeff, and what you've seen in the field and working in law enforcement and doing different things, what is your take on this very important topic on us Black people being open about our struggles with our mental health?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're speaking about this because we really do need to have or do a better job at having our community understand that it's okay to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes generations before us, they grew up in an environment where they didn't ask for help. And when they were struggling mentally, you just kind of kept it going. But, sometimes we see the results of what that looks like when you see, some of our elderly people that have struggled through so many areas, and not just elderly, you see it passed down from generation to generation. And, it's something that really does need to be spoken about more. And, at the end of the day, we know that, statistics have shown that throughout this COVID-19 time, that anxiety has gone up, depression has gone up, and it hasn't gone up just within, the Caucasian or the white community. It's gone up everywhere. So even within our own Black community.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having a deep conversation with a friend of mine who owns a funeral home. And she was telling me that, Jeff, you wouldn't believe how many more funerals we've had to do over this COVID-19 time, not because of COVID-19, but because of suicide.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Suicide
the suicide rates have gone up. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Within the Black community and also within the Black church community.
Oh, wow.
Something that's not spoken about. And so it's important that we understand that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay, if your leg hurts, you go to the doctor. If your finances aren't right, you go to the bank. If mentally something's going on with you, it's okay to get a therapist or someone that's going to help to guide you in the right direction. It's okay to ask a brother or sister for advice. It's okay to do these things. We need to get away from the mentality of I'm going to do it on my own and recognize that we need to learn to do it together.
Real talk.
Real talk.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you brought up the fact that, there's increased instances of suicide even within the church, because that's one of the things I was thinking about as in preparing to talk to you about this topic, that the fact that, we're taught from a very early age that we need to be strong and right, especially the men. Right?
Yes.
In our community, not to mention the women, that we have to be, so independent and you need to take on everything.
Yes.
And then we tend to find the church to be sort of a haven for us, when we're going through various difficulties throughout our life. And I get the sense that, the fact that you would have increased instances of suicide even within the church, it speaks to the fact that we tend to believe that it is a sign of weakness when we admit to having these mental health challenges. And particularly in the church, it is it might be looked at as spiritual weakness. So it's quite sad for me to actually hear that validated, because we see it all the time, like just in people that we interact with, that, we recognize that there may be struggles that people are having. I, on a daily basis right now, have to really check myself even.
Yeah, absolutely. You speak about men, and it's funny because you're absolutely right. It's deemed as being weak when you ask for help, when you're struggling and when you're looking for help. And, again, specifically speaking about men, but on the opposite side, you can see the result, right? Like the prison population is mostly men. Right, those who are committing suicide is mostly men.
Yeah.
Those who are causing domestic violence is mostly men. Right. So is it weak to ask for help? Because rather than us asking for help, the result of it is we're holding these things in, and then you see the way it plays out. Right. And so it's important for us to ask for help, because at the end of the day, again, like, look at the stats and what it shows you. It shows that there is a suffering that's happening, and there is help that definitely needs to be asked for. A story that I shared, and I think I might have shared it when I spoke to one of your early groups, Shan.
Yes.
I was sharing a story about growing up. And there was times when I was growing up, we had some money issues. We didn't really have a lot of money. And I remember coming home one day and walking in and turning the lights on, and the lights didn't come on. And right away, my first thought was, oh, my fish. I had these pet fish, right? These pet piranhas, right?
Yes.
These vicious little things, right? Would swim around the water. I had these pets. And so I went to check on these piranhas, and there's usually a filter that blows water. That blows air into the water to keep them alive, to put oxygen in the water. And of course, because the electricity was off, that wasn't blowing. And so I'm looking at these fish, and they're just staring at me, and I'm staring at them, and they're staring at me. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, I wonder what they're thinking. Like, are they like, what's going on? And so, I thought to myself, okay, you know what? Maybe if I kind of take the tube and blow my own air into the water, like, maybe that would help, right? I'm trying to be creative, right? Because I know, like, as they, going back to science class, when we breathe out, we're breathing out carbon. But there is also some oxygen still within it. So I'm like, maybe I could do something to help.
Listen, in Jamaica, they would have said, take your hand, pon fashion.
Right. Absolutely. Right. I'm trying to do the best that I can. I'm young. I don't know. I'm like, whatever. This is before Googling, right? Okay, what do you do if, right? Yes. So I'm blowing. I'm doing this for a while. My cheeks are tired. I'm passing out. Like, I'm tired. And so I stopped doing it. And I think to myself, okay, well, all I can do at this point is just hope and pray that they make it through. And so I ended up going to bed. I remember the next morning I woke up, and I said right away, I said, okay, let me check on the fish. And I went to the fish tank, and each and every one of them were dead. And I remember thinking to myself, when they were looking at me, when they were staring at me, and I was thinking, well, are they wondering what was going on? I'm wondering if they were screaming.
Oh, mercy.
but because I cannot communicate with fish, I wonder if I just didn't know what they were saying. I wonder if they were trying to scream, but it was screaming in silence. And I use this.
That's deep. That's so deep. It's powerful, but it's true.
Absolutely.
It's true.
Because I compare that to what we see to mental health. People are screaming in silence. And when you see a young man in school and he's quote unquote acting out, he is screaming in silence. He is not a bad kid. He is screaming in silence. He doesn't know how to ask for help. He doesn't know how to tell this teacher or this principal that he hasn't eaten that day, that his father beat him that day, that his father hasn't been in his life. He doesn't know how to come out and ask for help. And so as this young man who is forced to deal with things at a young age that he should never deal with, as he gets older, he becomes better at masking what he's been dealing with. And now he becomes this young man. And now he goes out into the world looking for his companion. And now
I was just thinking that, Jeff. And what does that look like? Yes.
Absolutely. Now he goes out and finds you. Now he goes out and finds a great young woman who, on the surface, and I'm not saying this kid is a bad kid, by no means he is, but he's been dealing with so much throughout his entire life, and he's never learned to ask for help. He's only learned to mask it.
Wow.
And as he evolves into this adult, and he now, gets into a relationship, there's going to be times that he's going to explode.
Yeah,
he's going to explode in other ways. Yes, because he's never really been able to work through that, to process that. Yeah. And then you bring your own baggage, your emotional trauma to your own relationship, and then it impacts the entire home. Real talk.
Real talk.
And one of the things Tam and I spoke on one of our previous episodes, this quote and you just said it in so many words, by Frederick Douglass. It said it's easier to build to build strong children than to repair broken men.
Yes, it is easier to repair children. And, that's why I think, as parents, for the parents out there, we really do want to pay attention to our children and don't just, brush off some of the things that they might be dealing with, because you're going to find yourself dealing with these same issues when they become 30, when they become 40, right? It's just going to appear different. And so, when we don't look for help for ourselves, we're doing an injustice to our children. Because again, our children never get a chance to learn the right way of doing things if we are not going to do it ourselves. And so we really do have a responsibility as parents, as adults, because the idea is really just to try to make the generation after us better, whether it be financially, whether it be, independent wise. And that also includes from a mental health standpoint as well. I shared on the call last night, about, saying the words, I love you, and how important it is to love who you are. And I also shared, just about my father, and my father being that old school Jamaican man, and growing up, he never said the words, I love you. He showed it to us by buying, food and making sure we had, clothes on our back, but he never said those words. And, as an adult now, I am old enough now to control that narrative. I don't have to, as a child, rely on my father to give it to me, right? And so I was sharing last night that, recently I said to myself, I'm going to start saying it to my dad. And so the very first time I did, I was coming off the phone. I'm like, okay, Dad, have a good one. He's like, okay. And I'm like, I love you, Dad. And he paused. He was like, okay, son. We'll talk later.
He doesn't know what to do with that. He didn't know what to do with that.
He did not know what to do. Not know what to do. And so, I've just continued to do it. And so now he's able to say it, right? And I just think about the situation that my father came up in.
Yes.
I think about what times were like back then and what they had to endure. And, knowing that the love did not flow easy from his parents, that's why he does not know how to show it to me in the same way.
Yes.
And so again, as parents, we have the ability to change the narrative, just like how, again, I grew up not hearing it, but now I'm like, I'm old enough. I'm going to say it to my dad, right? We can do this. We could change the narrative as well. so our children never have to experience some of the things that we had to experience.
Yes.
Our children can hear the stories, but they
don't have to go through it.
What we went through, right? So yes, getting help for mental health, whatever it is that you need to do. And of course, the mental health spectrum is so large, right? There's so many things that are covered within it, but self-love is definitely one of them, I believe, and learning to love who you are, and then learning to love the people around you so they don't have a gap, a void that's left within them. I want to say this as well. So again, with my father, when I got married, my father went to my best man and said something to him. And my best man came to me. He goes, yo, your dad just said something to me. I'm like, what do you say? He said that my dad said to him, I'm so proud of my son. I'm so proud of how far he's come and what he's been able to accomplish.
Wow.
I said, my dad did not say that to you.
But he never said it to you?
He's never said it to me.
He's never said that to you.
He's never said it to me. And I'm like, he did not say it. He goes, I promise you he said it, right? And so again, I think about the situations my father grew up in, how he was raised, and how he never got the love that he truly needed when he was in those infant stages. And so, I can understand why he is the way he is, but it's up to me to change it. It is my duty to change it. It's my duty to ask for help. It's my duty to see a therapist. It's my duty, whatever it is that I need to do to change a narrative. My children now, they'll tell you every single day, 15 times a day, I love you, hugs and kisses. My oldest is 12. He's at the age now where he thinks he's kind of cool. I'm like, understand, you're going to get this till you're 85. Like, you're going to get this your entire life. So you can shy away from it now, but it's always going to happen. You're going to have to live with it. Right?
Accept it.
Absolutely. They really need to know that, again, or we need to know that we can change the narrative. We don't have to allow these things to continue on. We can change our mental health and be better off for ourselves and for our families.
Absolutely. We have to be intentional about breaking the cycle.
You really do.
Breaking the cycle. And we have to be intentional about it. Real talk.
Real talk.
We absolutely do. Yes.
There was something that you said, Jeff, a little earlier on, and it just brought to mind, the struggles that we have as parents with children with special needs. And sometimes the stigma that's attached to those children, even with that may have issues around the behavioral spectrum of those special needs. And the judgment and the stigma that we as parents get when we try to find the best ways to help our kids. And sometimes, it includes stuff like medication. And I don't think people often stop to think about how that child manages in a world, even mentally, in a world that judges them to be different, right? Who's to say that what we consider normal is actually normal?
Yes.
And who's to say that we aren't sort of like the odd ones, right? In quotation, right?
Yes.
And I don't think people often stop to think about how those pressures and how the differences that these children have play on their mental health. And that is something that really irks me as a parent, that, we're not as understanding of each other, one, and of other parents' responsibilities in trying to just take care of the whole mental health and well-being, physical, mental, emotional well-being of their children. I don't know if you have any thoughts around even that.
I want to applaud every parent who has a child that has any type of special need, and the patience that you have to have and the nurturing that you have to have. I have 3 boys, and they are, average kids. And there's times that I want to blow my gasket. They drive me nuts. They drive me crazy. So I can't imagine a parent who has a special needs child who needs to have that attention 24 hours a day, 12 hours a day, whatever it is, the extra attention that an average child doesn't necessarily have to have. I have to applaud them, because at the end of the day, only they know what life is like living in that situation. It is easy to sit back, as they say, armchair quarterback, to sit back in your seat and be like, oh, that player on that team should have did this, this, and this. Meanwhile, you haven't done nothing but eat those chips, right? It's the same idea, you know, parents who are raising kids who have special needs, who are on the spectrum, and the fact that they have to give this extra love, and then, you know, depending on where on the spectrum your child is, have to worry about when you pass on what's going to happen to your child.
Mercy.
Absolutely.
Jeff, you're saying everything. With my experiences and Tam's experiences, you're seeing everything. Because one of our earlier YouTube videos that we did was about ADHD for our boys, right? And the stigma that's attached to that. And one of the things that I've always said to Tam, I worry about King. I worry about, because people don't understand him at times. They're cruel, right? And the behavior issues, because of the ADHD and stuff, and they will other him, right? And it really takes people with a level of understanding, empathy, and love to truly love children with special needs. Tam, you and I were just having this conversation last week. It takes someone truly with love, understanding, to love children with special needs, because they will abuse them. They will abuse them.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. It really does take that special individual who has that temperament. You will be tested, you'll be tried. At the end of the day, though, I believe that, you know, when children are born, they are a gift. And when you have a child who does have any type of special need, I believe it means that God understands that you have what it takes to bring this child into the world and to bring out their greatness. You know, Tam, you said it earlier, you know, the fact that, you know, we consider what's considered normal. Right. You see some of these kids who are on the spectrum, and they may not function in the same way as many people, but some of these kids will draw like you've never seen before. Some of these kids, okay, so, you know, as I'm speaking to you, yesterday I was watching Nick Cannon's show. He's a talk show, and he had this child that was on it. He looked like he was about 15. And I believe he is on the I believe he's on the spectrum for autism. And his mom said when he was 6 years old, he came to her, and he, in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., and said, "Mom, God said that I have to paint." And she's like, and she said, "Boy, go back to bed." Right? She sent him back to bed. And then a few nights later, he woke up again. This time he waited till 6 a.m. And again, he said, "Mom, God said I have to paint. And if I don't paint, then I'm going to lose this gift." And she was like, okay. And so she went out and bought him paint that day. That same day she bought him paint, she bought him a canvas. He painted his very first picture in 17 minutes.
Wow.
And they show, I wish I knew this boy's name just to bring it up now on the podcast. But he painted this picture within 17 minutes, and it was immaculate. This boy at 6 years old, who had never painted to that level, was just given this, and this gift just came out of it. And now he's painted pictures of Kamala Harris. He's painted pictures of Barack Obama. Barack Obama's mentioned him in speeches. I think LeBron James bought a painting from him, his first painting, for $100,000. Like, this is a kid who's about 15 or so now, who is on the has autism, and his gift is just immaculate. So again, as you said, Tam, who are we to say what's normal?
Right.
Who are we to say what's normal? Some of these people have amazing gifts, and it's just for them to find a way to tap into that gift. And so, you know, again, people look at them as being crazy, whatever word they use on them. But these kids, you know, these people who are diagnosed with these situations, they are truly special.
Yes.
My son says his ADHD is his superpower.
Yes, it is. I love that.
He says it's his superpower, and he says too, and this is not with any type of prompting from me. He says, "You know, Mommy, I can see things in a way that you can't see it." He's like, "My mind processes things in a way that you can't." Right. Wow. And so, yes, I am special and I am different, but that in itself is something like meaningful, right?
Yes.
Because I am different and I can do something that you can't.
You can't.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so my point around even this part of the discussion is the fact that, you know, we don't often consider that these children, the pressures that we put on them, whether it's for them to live up to our expectations of what we consider, we have to make a concerted effort also to make sure that we're checking in on them, and that we're feeding them, and that we're taking care of them mentally. Right? And it can be in various forms. So even as we talk about what we need to do for ourselves as adults, we need to remember the children too, especially in these times, right? When their lives have like totally changed.
Real talk.
Real talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We really do. I agree wholeheartedly with you. We do need to check on them because, again, you know, as they are forming their minds, forming their thoughts, forming their experiences, the experiences they're dealing with now are going to affect them for the rest of their life. Now, how they come out of it it's what we have to look at, because if it's something that is difficult for them now, it could affect them for their entire life. You know, I have been you know, I've been working in law enforcement for many years. And at one point in time, I really focused in on sexual assaults. I was investigating sexual assaults. And I've met people who came in to see me as adults, 40, 50 years old. And they had a sexual assault event that took place when they were in their teens, even when they're still in their single digits, 9 and 10. And I got to tell you, some of these people as adults, 40 and 50 years old, they cannot function. Because of the trauma. They cannot hold down a job. They cannot hold down a relationship. Something that happened 30 to 40 years ago, they cannot function to this day. I'm not here by any means to demean or speak badly about someone who has gone through this. But my point being is that our experiences are going to mold us in terms of where we go. They're going to mold us to where we go. And if we can, if we have the ability to get the assistance, to get the help at an earlier age when we're dealing with issues, then it's going to help us to become the adults that we really can become.
Yes, that's so true, Jeff. That is so
dealing
true.
with kids now who are struggling is really a good thing if we can to capture it, to get it, you know, and get them the help they need at an earlier age.
Jeff, I think we could talk about this topic the whole day.
I know.
We really could.
There's so much you have said in this short while, what I'm like, wow, right? Like we could definitely talk about this a whole day. But one of the main things that I'm taking from our conversation today, it's okay sometimes not to be okay. And if you need the help, ask for the help. Right? We need to break the shame, and we need to break the stigma.
Yeah, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. You know, the ultimate price is people losing their lives. Right. Again, what's coming down to is that when we have things that we've gone through, trauma, issues, and we hold on to it and we don't share it, we don't have somebody who's counteracting the thoughts that are playing in our mind. And our mind can be the most deadliest space ever. If you allow your mind and your imagination to play in a negative way, that thing that happened to you, you know, it could have been at a level 1, but by the time you finish with it in your head, it's a level 10. And if you don't get assistance and help to somebody who can speak to you about that circumstance to let you understand it's okay that what you went through, then that could take you again to the ultimate point of taking your life. We've seen that in many situations. You know, real quick, I've seen a young man who was in high school, and he was so worried about showing his mom his grade that it wasn't an A, that he jumped off the building and took his life.
Oh man.
And so again, there's a mental health piece there. That's not just about grades. That's not necessarily just about being scared of mom. There's a mental health piece saying that it makes sense to take my own life than to show my mom my negative grade. So I say all that to say that, yes, we have to ensure that we are asking for the help and not letting things play into our mind, because if we don't have somebody else assisting, giving us the proper advice, then we're going to allow that information to take us to a place that we don't want to go. And again, the ultimate price of losing lives, and we just don't want to get there. We don't want to do that anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank
you,
you.
Jeff. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yes, so Shan and Tam fam, this is another episode. We hope that we'll be able to have Jeff Martin back with us at some time in the future. But we also do hope that, you know, in this month especially, but not just this month, but every month, that we celebrate, you know, or strength or blackness, or, you know, the courage that we have. And that courage, I think, translates into us recognizing those times when we do need that help, and also recognizing when we need to provide that help to others around us. So we thank you again. We'll talk to you next time, fam. Take care and stay well.
Bye.
Don't forget to visit Shan and Tam on all their social media websites. At Sisters Shan and Tam on Instagram, Shan Tam Lodge-Lee on Facebook, and check out their blogs at shanandtam.blogspot.com. Tune in again next time on Real Talk.